Hey everyone, welcome back and hope you had a good week. This week's absolutely flown by. Big shout out to everyone who's been liking, sharing, commenting and subscribing all the content. I get it out every week for you lot, so just passing on that knowledge and hopefully you can find some use for it. Today we're looking at layering and reinforcing a breakbeat. So I'm obsessed with breakbeats. I've been using them 30 years now. I just love breakbeats, but we all have access to the same classic sort of breakbeats, and how will you make that more your own? So today we're looking at reinforcing a breakbeat. So you're actually going to learn to actually make it more signature, make it more organic, make it more your own, make it fatter. This is what you can do. We're also looking at layering a drum kit as well and making a fatter kick and a fatter snare, a fatter snare on that as well. So we're using my favorite VST plugin for this, which is my favorite hands down for this type of work, and probably will be forever. Groove Agent 5. So Cubase users, you get Groove Agent 5 SE in all versions, Artist Elements Pro and that stuff with the content as well. There's also a full fat Groove Agent 5, and yes, there's differences between the versions which I can show later on in future videos. But the full fat Groove Agent 5 is a VST plugin, so if you have other DAWs, you can use that as well. So you're not just looking at this tutorial and then thinking you just have to get Cubase. So you can use it with other DAWs, the full fat Groove Agent 5. Just wanted to clear that up. So yeah, kicks and snares. So like I said, layering is really important in most music. For instance, scoring, you get a piano with a string. House music, you play layer the claps. Drum and bass, you're layering the kicks and the snares. Breakbeat, you're probably layering the percussion. All that kind of stuff. Groove Agent 5 is amazing for that. The capability is like, there's nothing else that can touch it for me that does that kind of thing in the software realm. So we're gonna look at that, and we're gonna lean into sort of the sound design type sort of territory of how you can actually mix the elements together to get it more signature, more your own. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this one, and let's go. Okay, so we have a breakbeat. So there's our breakbeat. Nice little rolling breakbeat, lots of air and energy in there, lots of headroom. That's great. We can work with that. Groove Agent 5, for those that don't know, and SE is exactly the same principles, the way of working here. I want this break now. I want to chop up this break. I want to manipulate this break. It can be from the media bay, it can be from the project window, it can be from your desktop. From here, I can just go from the project window, I can just drag it to a pad. Now, in Groove Agent, you get 3 dialogues, so they're not really relevant right now because we've only got 1 sample, but for reference, the plus sign means I'm adding it to the pad. The second one means I'm going to swap the pad with whatever's coming back in on the pad. So whatever sample's on there will get swapped with the sample that's coming in. And the third one is if I grab a batch of samples and I drag them on this pad, they will then go chromatically up the scale, up the keyboard, or the drum pads, for instance, in a chromatic manner. So nothing on there, so it's irrelevant. I can just drag it on, and there's our break. I'm going to zoom out so we can see it all. I'm going to go to sample mode and make sure that no loop is on, so then I can literally just click it and get a one-shot sort of sound without it looping. So there's our breakbeat. I think I've got the keyboard here, so just... Right, so there's our loop. Right, so we have our break, and now I might want to, because obviously this episode is reinforcing the break, I want to then make it fatter. I want to make it more signature. I want to make it more organic. I want to make it more my own. And so now you literally will do this. For those that don't know, I will show some Groove Agent basics so that you can kind of get a grasp on how the functionality is. Because once you get it down, it's really easy. Once you get it down, it's really easy, and it's actually quite fun. You know, it's actually quite fun doing this. Like, it was torturous back in the days. I don't want to keep going on about back in the days, but it was torturous. It was fun, of course, but this like just brings a whole new level of things. It's a lot of speed, you know, a lot of power, a lot of flexibility now that you have in this version. So, okay, so here's the breakbeat. So on a pad, I've got no loop mode on, it's one shot. I can then go to slice mode, and you can see here it's all grayed out, the transients are grayed out. This is all non-destructive as well, so it's automatically saying, Groove Agent is saying, okay, that's what our transients are, that's where I can chop from. I can just create slices, and there you go, is the whole breakbeat. And if I'm on the keyboard, all the way up the keyboard. So the cool thing about Groove Agent SE and full fat version 5 is then I can say, okay, let's go to pattern mode, and them chops have been created into a groove. And if I press the pad, see how amazing is that? That's a game changer. To do that back in the days, anyway, I'm not going on to about the dinosaur times. Anyway, to do that back in the days, well, no comment. For those who were there, we know. Okay, so there's a groove. Okay, so there's a groove. There's actually a nice scream van in the background, so if you hear that, it's probably coming through in the video. If it's not, then there's an ice cream van in the background. I was actually trying to do the beat to the ice cream van. Oh, it's gone now. Right, okay, so there's the breakbeat, we've got the slice, we've got the groove. For those that don't know about Groove Agent 5, this is something that I really love about it, is this is something that I really love about it, is the fact that I can then, for instance, drag this groove to a MIDI channel, and there's a groove. Literally there, if I open up Cubase here, I can open up that groove in a separate window and I can see the MIDI notes. So that's really, really powerful. A really powerful feature, but we're not looking at that today. I've did a video tutorial, excuse me, in episode 1. Yes, episode 1. The first video that I put up on YouTube has how to do that and what it's about and the flexibility of it and the real coolness of getting a groove and making it your own in MIDI. So audio to MIDI. So you can look at that one. It's in. I'll put it up somewhere. I don't know how to do it on here. There. It'll be up there anyway, some point. So we're not looking at that. We've got the groove. It's just showing you how it could do that. We've got the groove, and I'm just showing you how it can do that. There's a groove chopped up. Now, if I go back to the instrument mode, we can actually see obviously all the pattern. And if I go to play mode on Groove Agent 5, I can see the groove. And obviously it's spread out, not just on 16 pads, it's like 3 batches of 16 pads, or on your keyboards, for instance. So when you press play mode, you can flick through them as well. When you press play mode, you can flick through that as well. See it here? So now if I want to maybe fatten this out, make it more signature, maybe leave the second half of the break out so I can see the difference between the two versions, so I can actually correlate and say, okay, that was the original, okay, here's mine. I'll use the first bar. So the first bars of it, I will literally say, okay. And I can press play to check that. So we can actually look at the first bars and we can actually, because it shows you real time where everything is playing, each pad has what, you can then actually do this, which is really good. You can actually see a real time where the snares are, for instance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to colour that. So I'm going to colour that. Let's do our snares as red. Snares as red. Or in the red category. That one there. So the first part of this break, there's kind of like 4 snares in it. Right, so so there's 4 snares. So now I can say, okay, there's the snares I want to work with. How will I fatten them up? Because really, the kick's not so bad, but the snare, I can add a bit more depth to that, a bit more character. Really easy. I can go to the media bay here. Now, obviously, some of this content is in not all our versions of Cubase and has been updated throughout the years, but there's also some content from the Groove Agent expansions packs, which you can see online. I'll put a link down below if you want to see them. Some really, really great expansions just for Groove Agent 5. But there's loads. There's like drum bass, there's dubstep, there's scoring, there's electronic, there's house, there's loads of kits in there, expansion packs that you can get. But like I said, I'll put them down below in the comments. So I'm going to go into Media Bay. I'm going to say, okay, loops and samples, and I'm just going to type snare into Media Bay, and I will make sure, for instance, this is taken off my Align Beats project, because what that will do is project tempo, which is really good, obviously, by the way. Whatever your project tempo is, this will actually sync it to that. So will stretch the tempo, warp it to tempo the audio, but you don't want that for a snare. You want it to just play the natural snare. You don't want it pitched up or down. You can do that yourself manually. Okay, so in Media Bay I have the snares. And I can audition as I go through. I can audition the snares. Quite like that one. So this is where the dialogues become really important now in Groove Agent 5. So I want that snare. I'm going to bring it here. You can see it's got quite a little bit of knock there. It's looking all right. I always find around 200 to 250 is like that kind of knock region. I like my sort of low mid sort of snares, but I've noticed like on a sound system or, you know, in a club environment, even on vinyl and stuff like that, you get a real knock around 250. It just sounds really pleasant to the ears, I found. So this one here, drag it to the pad. Now, keep your finger on this. Keep your finger on this mouse because this is where it could go wrong. Obviously, there's full undo redo on Groove Agent 5, which is great anyway, and SE, but it just makes things a lot easier if you keep your finger on the mouse and then follow the dialogues. So plus sign, I've added it to the pad, and now you can see there, this one here, which is RB Snare 3, is there, and the original, excuse me, is here. So we get the two snares together. So if I go to main mode, and you can see here, there's different types of modes for layering, which I've shown in the first video. If you've not seen that one, the layer modes are really important to what happens on the pad. So velocity mode means that lower velocities, I'll play the first sample, higher velocities, I'll play the second sample, and so on and so on and so on as you drag all the samples to the pad. So yeah, so for instance, if you had a keyboard, then obviously you could have like maybe 10 snares on there, and then you literally could just have one pad and just go right through the whole lot of snares by just velocity. So as hard as you may want to press on your keyboard. So I've only got two samples. I'm not going to go too in depth on that, just to show you what you can do as far as reinforcing is concerned. So now there's two on here. So lower velocity, sample 4. Higher velocity, sample 3. Now this is what I love about this program, because now I can go to layer mode and now I get both of them. And that's great. So now I get two. So already it's like, okay, this has changed the snare a bit, which is that's what we want. And obviously it's up to your imagination and creativity where you want to go with this. You can have more or less. There's no real rules. But the fact about layering is you don't just start, you know, like you're cooking, you're throwing ingredients. The ingredients got to make sense, right? Otherwise, the main the main outcome's not going to be so good. So it's the same with layering. You don't want to just throw a bunch of samples in and see what happens, although you can do, but you want to have a little bit of thought to your process. Like, you know, you have a like this, for instance, this snare. If I go back to velocity mode, you can see here it's missing a bit of low. So automatically I know I need more low, and this one has a bit more low in it. So maybe I can do a trade-off where I maybe add another snare with low, or I boost the low in this one, and so on and so on. So there has to be a sort of method to what you're doing. So I'm going to use these two. I'm going to go back to layer mode, and now we're getting a nice quite a bit of weight there, and that's good, because you have to remember that when we're doing this, you don't want to take up loads of low end with your snares, because when you do that, you're actually taking up headroom, taking up energy for the most important elements, which will probably be your kick, which will be taking up energy from probably your most important elements, which will be your kick, and obviously the bass. So the kick and the bass. So if you're taking up loads of headroom here and low end energy, if you're taking up loads of low end energy in this region here, then where's your bass going to go? Where's the kick going to go? I know you can sidechain, but you're still sacrificing a lot there, and you're actually impacting sort of headroom and loudness of things overall in the course of a track, pre-master and then eventual master. So it's just a little tip for you. So of course we want some low end in there, but we want it to be fatter as well and sound fatter. So back to layer mode, two together. This is great about Groove Agent. I can say, okay, here you've got the options to actually edit individual samples on the pads and solo them. So I can go solo mode, and within this layer, I can check out the samples. This is a game changer, because you couldn't used to do this back in the days. You had to just literally just layer samples together, put them on a desk, EQ them together, and then maybe go into the sampler and turn volumes down and offset volumes. This is amazing to be able to actually go in here, because now not only can we solo the samples within a layer, we can also treat the samples within a layer. So for instance here, so I'm actually going to keep that low. So I'm going to keep that low. I'm going to take the low out of this one. So the low in number 4 is okay. I'm going to thin out RB snares low, but I want it to keep the sort of that knock and high-end frequency. Really cool. So now I can say, okay, I can give it some sort of emulation mode. So we have like the 950 sort of style, vintage, lo-fi 16-bit sounds in here. So the engines, there's 3 engines, standard, which is clean. Then we have vintage and turntable. They speak for themselves. And they're great. They have that sort of nice little grit. And let's have a listen. Vintage mode, you get like a little bit of a darker sound. Turntable mode, darker with the sort of grit, lo-fi type of sound. I quite like turntable, but I'm going to go for vintage here. Now, because we have the knock and we like the knock, I might want to just maybe add some harmonics to that as well, because not much highs or sort of, you know, from like 500 onwards, there's not much of that left in there, but the main meat of it is there. So I'm going to add more of that. Really simple. I go to classic filter mode here, and then I can turn the resonance up a little bit. I'm going to put it on high pass. I'm going to go for high pass 24. And now you can hear nothing because it's totally high pass there. Bring it back a little bit. Maybe bring it back a bit more than that. So from 71 hertz, it's cut off. So this is like literally a full high pass filter. And if you're in here as well, look at all the filters. There's tons of filters. But what I really like about it here is, although I'm in classic filter mode, I can then go to maybe tube drive mode, and then I can start adding harmonics. So let's go on the keyboard here. Right, so there's our snare, and now I can start adding distortion. So you can hear it, you can see it on the analyzer. And of course, there's different types of distortion in here. So I can say, give me a clipper. I can say maybe a bit reduction. Or I can say, give me a rate reduction. So you really can sculpture your layered sound to go with your original sound here, and so on and so on and so on and so on. So it's great to be able to really, like, this is like the saying about the sound design element. There's no reason why you couldn't really get the snare that is in your head, because it's really hard to get what's in your head down, to get the snare that you want, just by layering and doing these kind of elements like high pass, low pass, resonance, distortion, and of course we have pitch as well. So like that there, we've got that bit of ring harmonics with the resonance, vintage mode, and then I can maybe even pitch it as well. And because we're in solo mode here and sample mode, it means that the original mode is intact. So now when I go back to full on layer mode, so when I now go back to solo mode, take solo mode off, where it's taking the focus off the individual samples, I then get to hear both of them together with my processed second layered snare. Really, really good. And if I press play mode, I can hear the difference of what it's doing now. I can hear it in context. Go back again. And you keep going and keep going and keep going. So maybe let's try another snare. This one's like a little sort of tight sort of ringer snare. Now let's go for this one. Okay, so let's try another snare. We're going to use the same snare, plus to the pad, velocity layer mode, velocity layer mode. And now let's do something a bit different. Let's change the pitch. So a higher pitch now, filter mode, standard mode, engine mode, let's just keep it on vintage again. Filter mode, let's try hard clip. So you see you're getting more knock now. And solo mode. So in solo mode, you see you're getting more knock now. Quite like that. That's too much, but you can see. So there's a bit more knock in that version compared to this one. So now you can kind of work out which snare would really suit this reinforcing of this break. Again, same process. We've pitched it up again. We've done the filters. We've done the hard clip. We've changed it at engine mode. Go back to full layer mode. Take solo focus mode off. And now I get to hear them both together. And because you're hearing them both together, it means you can then now mix the elements a bit better. Volume. Okay, so maybe even colour that now. So 2 types of different snares on here to reinforce this break. And now when I press play, and so on and so on and so on. So, okay, so now listen to the break. So maybe take that filter down a little bit. There we go. And so you get the idea. So you can actually, because I've left it open across all the bars, you can actually hear the first bars of the treated, layered, stacked up samples, and then you can differentiate that between the non-processed versions, you know, the raw break. So it's great to be able to get a difference of that. And when you're happy, you might want to then maybe do the kicks. So I'm going to do the first kick, just only the first kick. Same process again, come into Media Bay, kick. This is a bit more meaty. Oh, that's quite good, actually. I can rate that as well. If you don't know about rating in the Media Bay system, you can actually then rate a sample. So you can actually rate it between 1 and 5 stars, and you can add metadata to it as well. So it means, for instance, when you're doing stuff like this, and in the moment and want to get things down quickly, you can just go to your highest rated samples by just choosing the rating. So you can actually sort it by rating. And that works across all presets in Cubase, all sample tagging, everything really. So it's really helpful, especially when you're doing presets and stuff. Okay, so same concept, dragging the kick, plus to the pad, velocity mode, let's have a listen. Lower velocity, higher velocity. Oh yeah, I like that. I like that. High velocity, lower velocity. Oh yeah, there's plenty of weight in that. And if you look at this kick as well, this kick's actually quite good. It's quite well designed. Look at it. The higher version, I mean. There. We've got a nice bit of range for sub as well. We can take a little bit off it as well, but as far as a kick goes, this gives me all the meat that I need. I don't really need the meat of the first one. So, same concept, solo mode, sample mode. First one is original. So the original one's got like kind of mid-range to it, which is good. So let's go to the layer mode so we can hear the layers properly. That's the meaty one. And this one's good. You can see here, we've got some mid going on as well, so that's great. It means I can maybe emphasize that a bit more, add a bit more character there, but I don't really need the lows in there. That's really going to clash with the other one. So same concept, same principle. Engine mode, let's go over turntable. Get us more of that grit out. That's more of that mid-range sort of grit out. Filter mode, I'm going to go to classic mode. And we're going to go for high pass this time. So straight high pass. High pass 24. That's what we want. So anything under 100 hertz, we can take that away. That's what we want, that knock there. This is what we want, that region. And of course, then later on we can EQ that. And all that kind of stuff. And Groove Agent 5 has all the effects built in as well as mixer modes and all that kind of stuff. So, but we're not doing that. Okay, so everything under 100 hertz, we've got that kind of mid. Now I can say, okay, give me the meat. And to be fair, there's nothing else really in that region. If I wanted to be really surgical here, I could say, okay, I'm going to turn the filter on, classic mode. I'm going to go low pass 24, and then I can just use the lows there. And then it's a case of mixing to takes now. So I can take solo mode off, layer mode on, and then I can literally just mix it to taste. So original, here comes the meaty version. And you get it together without, with. So you're getting that kind of mid knock with the weight as well. And because we obviously filtered that, it means we can then start to treat the mid-range, because we also cut that off, that frequency. So it's really great to be able to be in that sort of sound design realm of sculpting and layering your own particular samples. And then again, we can go to the pad and we can color it as well. We can set the color to, I don't know, maybe this one. And then play mode, and we can hear how it works. It's quite good. I'm just going to take the volume down a little bit, just to mix it a bit better. And now when I'm happy with that, of course, we can do what I showed you before. We can then actually go to the pattern mode. I can drag this groove across. And then, of course, I can then maybe, might only want to use the first part of it. And then I'm off and running. And then I'm off and running. With the original. You can see it here real time. Bit of pitch there. So I'm going to go to master mode, and I'm going to put a compressor on it. Just to control it a bit more, get a bit more organic. Just to control it a bit more, so I can add more punch in it a bit later with the second slot. So if I go to the second slot and I go to dynamics, I can then go to, for instance, the envelope shaper, and I can really start to punch through this kit. So I'm compressing it and controlling it, and then I'm adding some dynamics back. Without, with, and of course you can see the low end's really pushing now, so the bass is going to be, where do I go here? And then it's just a case of normal mixing now. You can actually choose to mix and EQ, and for this one I might use frequency EQ. So frequency EQ, you can cut and boost at extreme values. It's really transparent, and for instance on here, you know, from 20 hertz onwards, I could say give me a really low 96 cut, and I can just take that off. So now that would probably be too much, because you do want some weight in there. So let's go say maybe 24, and that's what we want to do. So obviously this is how good this EQ is. You can really zero in on what you want to take out. Bring it back a bit. And if I look on the original analyzers, don't need to use this EQ now, the channel EQ, because frequency has done the job, but there's nothing wrong with stacking EQs here as well. Something that I do quite a lot of. So you can see here, lots of room here for the low end sub-region to come in, regardless of what program material it is, what genre it is. There's nice room here now for the bass, 808, even more like a bigger kick, it doesn't matter. And of course then you can sidechain and make more room if you want to do that, or more compression. So yeah, really happy with how that works. And this is how I lay my breaks. This is how I reinforce all my breaks. This is what I do. So now this breakbeat is my own. I can save it, I can resample it, save it as a preset, and I'm good to go. And if someone has the same breakbeat, theirs won't sound quite like mine. And that's what you kind of want. You want to be your own different sort of style, signature style. Yeah, I really like that. So that is reinforcing a breakbeat. Now let's go into kicks and snares. Okay, so quickly moving along, two-step. I've got a little two-step kind of pattern. Again, these are samples out of Media Bay. For those that don't know, Cubase comes with thousands of samples. Each year we stack upon samples and samples and samples, so the content is quite vast now. So for those that don't know, there's actually some gems in this in this Media Bay content, gems, and that's not including the expansions that I've added here and stuff like that. The actual content, like the kicks and the snares, the foley, the sound effects, the scoring stuff, the hip hop stuff, great. Drum bass kits, great. It's all in there. So just a little tip for you there for the Cubase users. Okay, so little two-step number. And it's the same theory as before. I want to reinforce maybe the snare because the kick's quite enough, I think. Yeah, the snare needs more sort of knock, it needs more width, it needs to be a bit bigger, a bit fatter. So I just want to reinforce the snare. Same process, but now we're going to go a bit more deeper now. So snare. Oh, there you go. I quite like that one. So plus sign. I'm going to keep going. Plus sign. And this is all random, by the way. So it may or may not sound how it's supposed to sound. But it's YouTube. That's what we do. Okay, so now if I go back to edit mode, and you can see here there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 samples on here now. And again, like we've shown before with the velocity level thing. Let's go back a key. Lower velocity, lower sample, higher velocity, higher sample. Right, so now I'll go to layer mode and let's just randomly hear how they all sound together. Oh, that's actually not bad. It's quite fat. Some levels need adjusting though. That's actually not bad. If I take the EQ off here, I think it's missing a bit of punch probably in this one. So I'm going to solo it, solo mode. Yep, sample and solo mode. Yeah, it's missing a bit of knock there. So I'm going to go to vintage mode. Same thing we've shown before. I'm going to go for the hard clip. That's what you want, that knock. Let's listen to it in context. Let's bring the volume down of maybe this one. Let's do solo. That one. Unsolo. Really happy with that. Now one of them's got a bit of a tail on it, so I go to solo again. I like that tail, but don't like that tail. So I can just shorten it. And now with on solo, you get a tighter sort of snare now, much tighter snare. And maybe, for instance, if I go solo mode again, I'm going to pitch that a bit. On solo. Take a bit of the tail back. And then when I play it now, and then for instance I can say, okay, from here, output, I can put this pad through auxiliary effects 1, and then I can go to the mixer, and then I can say auxiliary effects 1. Take the room size down. So you see the power of this now. So I have a two-step there, sort of layered and stuff and treated, going alongside the original breakbeat, and this is what it's about: layering breakbeats, layering samples, layering kicks, layering snares. And I always like to do this. I know I keep showing it, but just colour your elements. It doesn't have to be these colours, by the way, but I just like to be able to see, okay, there's where my kicks are, there's where my snares are, there's where my percussion is, all that kind of stuff. Really nice. So the kick's untreated, but the snares got going through that reverb send. So that's what I really like about Groove Agent, the fact you can put it through auxiliary effects channels. So back in the days, we had loads of effects units, but they were very expensive, so I only had 2. And so everything had to go through either 1 or 2, so either through a delay or through a reverb. But the power of being in the modern realm with the DAWs now means I can have effects going through different auxiliaries, different kits, different agents, different master, different channels within Cubase, then on the master output, and so on and so on and so on. So the power and flexibility that we have now is just, it's so fun. I absolutely love it. Yeah, really like that. And then again, you could build it up to a whole kit. So now finally, to show you a cool thing that Groove Agent 5 does, and this is the difference between the versions, is Groove Agent 5, as well as being able to have the ability to sample and edit in it and do decomposing, which I can show later on in another video, real deep features. It also has the ability to mix different agents, so you can load multiple agents at the same time and trigger them at the same time. So this is Beat Agent. If I go to another slot, I have a fresh agent to open. And this is where I can say load a kit with a pattern, for instance. I can say, give me an expansion pack. I'm going to say colliding worlds. I'm going to choose a preset here, load the preset with samples. And then you can see in pattern mode. So I can load a preset with samples, you can see pattern mode. I really like this kit, it's got loads of nice cool percussion. The cool thing about Groove Agent 5 is now I can play this agent, with my original agent like this. Quite like that. And there you go. So yeah, full fat Groove Agent. If you want to see more of what it can do and the differences between the versions, a full breakdown, deep dives, let me know. I will do one. I absolutely love this VST. It's my favourite. It's definitely my favourite because I love my beats, but I love the capabilities of it as well. And that includes Groove Agent 5 SE as well, which comes in all versions of Cubase. So really powerful. Nothing else does this. Layering, chopping capabilities, the way you can rearrange grooves and all that kind of stuff, built-in effects, you know. And this is obviously the full version. We can actually mix different agents, jazz agent, percussion agent, beat agent, with effects, built-in editing. Yeah, really, really powerful. Okay, I hope that was all good, and I'll see you next week. Peace.